Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very next session in the lineup of the Connect 2020 conference. It's a real privilege this morning to have Gerhard Janse from Rensburg with us. Gerhard started his career as a developer and transitioned to the service provider industry after taking an interest in working with large networks. Having spent some time working for one of South Africa's most prominent ISPs, providing consulting services as well as working in the technical department of Miro, he had the opportunity to work and support almost every type of technology and infrastructure in the ICT realm. He's since now moved into the training department at Miro, where he gets to live his passion every day and uses his experience and his skill set to educate and empower individuals. Good morning, Gerhard. Gerhard's going to be talking a little bit more about a topic that's really close to most of our hearts, and it's critical to every operator, and that, of course, is managing your network. So he's going to talk about a very specific product in the Miro stable, and he's going to introduce that, and he's aptly themed his topic title, Complete FTTX Control at Your Fingertips. Good morning, Gerhard. Welcome to the session, and it's great to have you with us. At this point, I'm going to hand over to you, and I look forward to the session, and I'll catch you afterwards.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Anita, for the great introduction. My name is Gerhard Janse van Rensburg, and I'm a member of the training team at Miro. I want you to know that your time is very valuable to us in the session today, and we hope that you'll all have a very informative and a very enjoyable experience with this session. Now, like Anita mentioned, the main topic of my discussion with you guys today will be centralized network management, specifically from the BDCom product lineup. But I'd like, before we get started with that, I'd like to just give you all a brief introduction to Miro as a company for those of you who are not familiar with us. Well, for those of you who are not familiar with Miro as a company, we are first and foremost a distributor of IP convergence products. But why exactly choose Miro for your ICT needs? Now, there's a couple of key points that I'm going to touch on now. So first of all, Miro doesn't sell you a box. We work hand in hand with our clients and our great vendors to build really custom tailor-made solutions to best suit the needs of your specific project or of your deployment. And this is very handily backed and supported by our extremely extensive product portfolio. So we cover basically everything that a service provider or an integrator could need within the ICT realm when it comes to product selection. So everything from Wi-Fi to fixed broadband wireless, mobile solutions, LTE, service provider infrastructure equipment, IP telephony, IP surveillance, as well as access control, wired networking solutions, and of course, our fiber offerings in the FTTX space. And one of the key things that we believe sets us apart from a lot of our competitors is the amount of in-house knowledge and support that we back our products with, from professional pre-sales advice and services to after-sale support provided by a dedicated and fully trained team of technical support agents. And Miro is also the market leader when it comes to local type approvals within South Africa. Now, this is an effort to ensure that our partners always have a steady and reliable supply of legally compliant products. Miro also offers you the opportunity to finance all of your ICT needs directly through Miro, or even pass this financing cost down to your end user if that is something that you want to incorporate in your business model. Then we also offer the more traditional run rate terms accounts, ranging from anywhere from 7 to 30 days, traditional terms accounts. Now, the trainings that we offer range from certified, internationally recognized brand-specific trainings to in-house developed courses designed for industry novices, as well as more intermediate and advanced users. Now, we have the ability to host these trainings either physically at any one of our branches located across South Africa, in either Gauteng at our head offices, Cape Town, Durban, and Nelspruit, or even Nairobi, Kenya. We also have the ability to take this training to your business and host it there, or even in the format of a fully online live webinar. So BDCom was founded in 1997, and they built their industry reputation mainly on their extended wireless solutions in both the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz ISM bands. Now, since those early days of inception, they have really diversified their product portfolio, and their current modern day product portfolio consists of everything from network security solutions, from firewalls and VPN appliances, to a very comprehensive switching platform, various wireless products and technologies, an IP telephony platform, as well as obviously their passive fiber FTTX product offerings. So let's take a look at the products that are on offer from BDCom in the FTTX passive fiber realm, starting with our network head-end devices, or our OLTs. And the first class of devices I want to take a look at are the EPON devices. Now, these devices are really intended for your small to medium-sized applications, so anywhere from 100 to 1,000 subscribers, conforming to the 64 splits per PON interface that the EPON standard supports, as well as the symmetric 1.25 gigabits per second data rate. Then we have the GPON range. Now, the GPON product line is mainly aimed at medium to large scale fiber rollouts of up to 2,000 subscribers per OLT, conforming to the GPON standards of 128 splits per port, and the asymmetric 2.5 gigabit per second downlink and 1.25 gigabit per second uplink. Now, within both of these two main fiber head-end categories, being EPON and GPON, we have head-end devices ranging anywhere from 4 to 16 PON interfaces per OLT, from fast Ethernet to gigabit to 10 gigabit per second fiber uplinks, and options with single power supplies as well as redundant power, all depending on the model. And then the last head-end device I want to take a look at is the chassis solution from BDCom. Now, the chassis solution is really intended for your extremely high density and very large scale FTTX deployments of anywhere up to 20,000 subscribers per chassis. Now, the nice thing about the chassis solution is that it supports either EPON or GPON, or even in some cases, both in the same chassis. So you can mix and match between the two technologies and really find a sweet spot in terms of your deployments needs. And the main driving force behind the chassis solution is really centralized management and the ease of scalability, especially when it comes to things like redundant power and integration with the BDCom NMS. So now that we've taken a look at our various products on offer in terms of the ISP head end, let's take a look at the subscriber side of our network, or the customer end of our network. Now, BDCom has a bunch of different ONUs, or fiber subscriber modules, available within their product portfolio within two main categories. So we have SFU devices, which are mainly bridge devices with only a single Ethernet port, very cost effective little devices. And then we have our HGU devices, which are full-blown home routers with multiple either fast Ethernet or gigabit interfaces and a built-in Wi-Fi, whether it be 802.11n or 802.11ac, again, depending on the model. Okay, now you'll notice that within the different fiber CPE classifications, I haven't specified whether they, or the differences between the EPON and the GPON models. Now, although there are GPON and EPON specific ONU models, and they are labeled as either EPON or GPON, BDCom offers you the option to convert either an EPON or a GPON ONU to one of the other standards. This is an effort to ensure that in the event that you switch from one technology to the other, whether that be GPON or EPON, that you can retain your subscriber modules without having to take up the cost of replacing them with a model specific to one of the other technologies. So it really allows you the flexibility to, if later down the road you want to change to either EPON or GPON, you only have to change the head-end device in your network. Something as simple as a firmware change on the devices will allow you to use it as either an EPON or a GPON subscriber. Now, this brings you quite neatly to the necessity of adequate and powerful monitoring and management tools for any service provider. Now, this is something that we can all understand, regardless of your involvement within the industry or your level of technical expertise. Everybody can appreciate and everybody can understand the value behind powerful centralized management and monitoring. Now, before we get into the BDCom NMS, I first want to talk a bit about just network monitoring and management in general. Now, a service provider, just like any business, aims to be profitable. And one of the easiest ways to be profitable is by minimizing your expenses. And what is the biggest expense for most companies? Manpower. And a service provider is no different from any other business in this regard. So labor is extremely expensive, especially skilled and trained and experienced labor, which is exactly the type of people we want to employ as a service provider. So really what I'm trying to drive home here is using your employees, so your support team, your engineers, and your escalation staff, using their time as efficiently as possible to maximize what they can do for your company. Now, without adequate monitoring and management tools in place, you're really left in the dark when it comes to remote troubleshooting or fault finding in your network in general. Now, what this leads to is, in many cases, turning your subscribers into de facto smart hands, or asking them to assist in things like remote troubleshooting in the event that the internet connection goes down. Now, the issue with this is that the quality of the support that you can provide is no longer dependent on the competency of your engineer, but instead you're relying on the technical competency of your subscriber, which is something that we want to avoid at all costs. Now, what remote monitoring and management tools can do, there's a bunch of stuff that it can offer a service provider. First is network visibility and remote troubleshooting tools. So in the event that something happens with your subscribers, the ability to diagnose and troubleshoot and possibly remedy that situation immediately without the need for that technician to go out onto that site is extremely valuable. Not only this, it makes upgrading and keeping your network as up to date and as secure as possible a lot easier than having to access devices individually and making sure that everything is running smoothly. Having the ability to get an idea or an overview of your network status and seeing how everything is running can be extremely valuable, and it can be a huge time and therefore cost savings as well. And then really effective and powerful remote management and configuration tools can really help reduce the rollout time of your FTTX networks quite considerably. Now, this can be due to a couple of factors, such as we'll discuss with the BDCom NMS in just a second, such as automatically onboarding subscribers into your fiber network and assigning their internet connection details directly through the NMS without the need for installers to actually configure those devices when they are at the site. Simply install, and then somebody at the help desk or from an admin perspective at the office can do these configurations for you. Now, this brings us to the BDCom NMS offering. So we've talked a bit about the products, we've talked a bit about the need for really powerful centralized management tools for any service provider. But now I want to talk specifically about the BDCom NMS platform. How do we manage these devices that we've just taken a look at? Well, this is through the BDCom Network Monitoring System, or BDCom NMS for short. Now, the BDCom NMS is a centralized graphical-based monitoring and management platform for all BDCom devices. Now, when I say all BDCom devices, I mean any addressable device within the BDCom product portfolio. This is not just limited to their PON devices. This can be anything from their switches to their wireless products, their IP telephony system, as well as their routing platform. This can all be onboarded and managed through the BDCom NMS platform. So a single platform to manage all of the devices from a vendor. And the next thing I want to mention is the NMS is completely free. And I do mean completely free. Now, one of the main problems when you mention that something is free is that doubts start to creep in immediately. So people start to make assumptions based on the fact that I've just mentioned that the NMS is free. So immediately people think, okay, so this product isn't actually free. And this is understandable. We've been conditioned to doubt things that have the label free attached to them. There's always hidden costs or pay gates or recurring license fees attached to that. I can assure you this is not the case with the BDCom NMS. It is completely free and readily available for you to deploy. There are no hidden costs involved with the BDCom NMS. Then the second doubt that starts to creep in is in terms of the functionality and the capability of the platform. Now, again, I can assure you that the BDCom NMS is service provider ready out of the box with minimal configuration, and it is truly up to scratch with other centralized monitoring platforms from other vendors within the same space. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to break down the BDCom NMS into three main key talking points or key driving factors behind the platform. And hopefully after I've discussed these three main topics, you guys will have a bit more of an idea about the capabilities, some of the limitations and the functionalities of the platform and how it could potentially benefit you as a service provider. And the first one I'm going to take a look at is feature set. Now, it's extremely important that we know what the BDCom NMS can do. Again, what are its limitations? What power or what functionality can it add to your service provider network? What is the platform actually capable of? And the first thing is remote ONU configuration. So what this involves is onboarding subscribers remotely, and this can be done completely zero touch with minimal amounts of effort in terms of administration and configuration. So you can configure everything from your WAN connection details to your Wi-Fi, so your SSID and your security details, as well as your LAN settings on the customer end. And this can also, again, aid in troubleshooting by being able to change all of these settings remotely. So anything that you can change within either the web interface or in the command line tree of a device, you are able to change through the NMS. Now, this is true for both the ONUs as well as for the OLTs and the switches and whatever BDCom products it is that you want to incorporate into the system. And the next thing is remote firmware upgrades. Now, as we all know, firmware upgrades are a bit of a red herring. They can either benefit your network in terms of individual upgrades, or sometimes they can cause problems. But we know that firmware upgrades are mainly intended to add functionality or features to our devices. Next up is our firmware upgrades. Now, remote firmware upgrades are a bit of a red herring. They can either benefit your network or they can cause problems depending on the upgrade. But again, this is a useful tool to have in terms of troubleshooting. As we all know, firmware upgrades are there to add functionality in some cases, or to fix bugs, or to improve the security of the device in general. Then our device performance and usage graphs. Now, this can show us anything from the usage of a specific interface over a specified period of time, like we'll take a look at in the customization section. And it can give you a brief overview of both memory, CPU usage. So any important statistics regarding the device in terms, again, from a troubleshooting point of view, or just to get a general idea of the performance of your network as a whole. Then our network topology maps. Now, this can give you a sort of a high-level overview of your network, and it also allows you to apply configuration changes to the devices directly from this graphical topology map. It can show you how your network is actually physically connected. You can see which subscribers are connected to which interfaces on your OLT, and you can use this again as a troubleshooting and a diagnostic tool. And then we have our main diagnostic tool. So this is anything from connectivity troubleshooting, so ping tests and trace routes, to remote loop tests on your ONUs as well. And then we have error and event logging with export to Excel functionality. Now we'll take a look at this in the next section, as well, the amounts of customization that can be applied to the logs and how you can actually change and modify which information is collected and how long it is collected for to actually benefit you and to make the readability and the usability of this information a bit more applicable to your business. And then lastly, we have our email-based alerts and alarms directly through the NMS. Now, what this can do for you is you can be notified on, again, customizable criteria. So you can specify what constitutes an email to be sent or what constitutes an alarm within the NMS to actually be triggered to notify technicians that are actually working in real time on the NMS platform to take a look at a potential problem. Then the next thing I want to take a look at is customization. Now, one of the most important things that I really want to drive home with this session is the amount of customization that can be applied to virtually any interface or any menu within the NMS itself. So this can be anything from customizing certain menus to setting custom defined presets for your devices. You can really tailor this platform to do exactly what it is that you need from it. So you can change the default states of certain menus. You can remove certain things if it's not applicable to your business. And it's really modular and flexible in that sense. Now, the first thing I want to take a look at is device presets. Now, with our presets, we can apply sort of a base configuration to either individual devices or to batches of devices to sort of give us a framework to work from that we can apply to devices of the same type or even in the same physical site or in the same pond. Then the next area of potential customization within the NMS is our customizable alert levels as well as our triggers. So we are able to specify what constitutes an email alert to be sent or an alarm to be raised with a specific sound within the NMS to again notify operators working in real time on the platform of a potential fault. And this is really, you can get very granular in terms of what actually constitutes these events. So you can specify things like received power levels for a subscriber or a PON interface on an OLT going down. You can specify that as a critical error on your network and have that send an email directly to a site manager or to a senior network engineer or network architect for that matter. Then we have customizable user accounts and access levels. Now, in terms of what we can actually change, you can set permission levels for specific users on a per menu or a per device basis. So you can, a good example of this would be for a specific user who only needs access or read-only access to your OLTs, so the head end of your network, but he needs to be able to make changes to your subscribers. You can specify that for either a specific user, or you can create your own custom account presets as well and apply that to a group of users or create a bunch of users within that specific custom account group. Then our event and change log. So again, like I mentioned earlier, you can really apply a very fine level of granularity when it comes to your logs and which logs are actually saved, what information gets logged, how long is the retention period for those logs, where they get saved to, specify external logging servers. And then, like I mentioned, obviously you can export this to Excel to really get a more usable or useful experience from the logs and have them actually help you in your troubleshooting steps throughout your network. Then our device performance statistics. So again, we can apply a bunch of customization to what device stats and what metrics actually get collected and displayed. And this can change based on every single time that you try and view the graphs. You can view only specific features that you want to. You can view all of the features across the board. And again, this can be customized on a per statistic basis, or like I mentioned, you can view all of the device statistics that can be gathered by the NMS all in one go. And then the last key driving force behind the BDCom NMS platform that I want to talk about is simplicity. Now, I know I've just spent a couple of minutes talking to you about how customizable and how flexible the platform is. And now I want to try and explain to you that it's also very simple to use and that it is ready to use out of the box. Now, that might sound a bit contradictory, but please hang on for just a second and let me explain why I chose simplicity as one of the main defining factors of the NMS. Now, as customizable and as flexible as the NMS platform is, it is also, like I mentioned earlier in the session, service provider ready right out of the box. So you don't need to apply these customized presets or change any of these default settings in order to use the platform. You can simply install it and be ready to go within a matter of literally minutes. The amount of customization you want to apply to the platform is also completely up to you. If you only want to customize certain interfaces or certain menus that are applicable to you, then you can do that. There's nothing stopping you or nothing that's prohibiting you from only changing the specific things that are applicable to your business or to your network. Now, in terms of simplicity, the first thing I want to mention is what I talked about earlier. So a single platform for all BDCom devices. So if you have any of the devices from the BDCom switching platform, any of the fiber head-end devices, any of the ONUs, or for that matter, wireless products and security, network security hardware, you can manage this all from a single platform. And in many cases, you can share presets and things like that between devices of different families, obviously with compatibility being the main defining factor in that. Then the NMS platform has support for both Windows and Linux operating systems. So, and in the same vein, I want to mention the accessibility of the platform. So we've mentioned that it's free, but it's also readily available. So we will provide you with a link to where you can find the BDCom NMS platform. And it is simply there for you to download and to implement within your network. There's no special channels or no programs you need to sign up for, no approval that you need to go through. There's also nothing stopping you from deploying multiple NMS servers across your network or setting up a server for failover or load balancing. In this case, again, the images for the server are readily available and we'll provide you with the links to it. If you want to try it out, if you have BDCom devices on your network, then there is no reason to do it. Like we mentioned, it's completely free. And we also mentioned it's very simple to set up. Then obviously zero license and support fees. Now, I want to mention, just because there are no support fees charged for the platform doesn't mean that support is non-existent. Miro, as well as BDCom, will help you in getting your NMS deployment off the ground and up and running and functioning in the best way that it possibly can. So we will still provide you, both from Miro as well as from BDCom side, we will still provide you with the best support possible on the platform. We just do not charge you a recurring support fee for the product. Then obviously being a graphical based user interface has its key advantages. One of the main ones is the amount of time it takes for people to get used to the platform and be comfortable in working with it. So I know a lot of network guys, and I don't really want to use this term, but some of the old school network engineers are very fond of their command line. However, it takes a long time, especially for the younger network engineers and newbies, to get accustomed to a new command line or to get used to command line in general. We are so spoiled with graphical interfaces that it's sometimes difficult to sort of manage network devices in that way. So in this way, having a graphical based interface reduces the training time significantly when it comes to support staff and your network engineers, so that they can get comfortable with the platform. And in many cases, as little as a few hours of training can be all it takes for your staff to be comfortable with the platform and start using it effectively to manage, monitor, and configure your network devices. And now this is also backed by intuitive menus and logical system flow. So again, reducing the time it takes to train up either new intake or your existing staff on how to use the platform, which in and of itself can be very valuable. You do not need specific training on the NMS platform in order to use it. Everything is very logical, it has a very logical and natural flow to it, and everything is extremely intuitive. And then one of the other key simplicity features, or what I believe adds to the simplicity of the platform, and I could have just as easily added this to the feature set of the platform, is the automatic onboarding of the ONUs in your network. So what I'm referring to is if you onboard a head-end device in your network, so your central fiber access device in your PON, your OLT, as soon as you connect an ONU to that OLT, so as soon as you take on a new subscriber, you connect a new subscriber to that device, they will automatically be managed through the NMS. Okay, so it really simplifies the process. Instead of having to configure each device to communicate with the NMS or to be onboarded into your NMS, it is all done automatically for you, as long as they are connected to an OLT upstream from them that has connectivity and is configured to be monitored through the NMS.
Thank you, Gerhard. That was certainly very interesting. Thank you for your time this morning. And let me just also take a moment to thank Marco and Miro and in general the company. For those of you who don't know, Miro was the very first company that came on board and said, hey, yeah, we'll sponsor this event. We're incredibly grateful for that. You know, it helps us just fund the platform and cover some of the costs of having this dialogue and continuing to talk, even though we can't be together physically. So yeah, thank you, Miro. Hats off to you guys. We are eternally grateful for it. And yeah, thank you, Gerhard, for a very insightful educational session. I can see why you do what you do. It's definitely a calling. Thanks very much and have a great day. Till the next session.